Numbers have a strange power over us. They slip quietly into our minds, take hold, and shape our judgments long before we realize it. A single price, a single estimate, a single suggestion, and suddenly everything we think afterward shifts around that first number. We trust it. We compare to it. We let it guide us even when it has no reason to be trusted at all. In this episode, we're going to explore why that happens. Why the first number you see becomes the reference point for every decision that follows. Why markets negotiations and even your beliefs bend around the earliest information. And why your brain, clever as it is, clings to the familiar, the immediate, and the arbitrary. This is anchoring bias. A simple idea that shapes the way we shop, the way we decide, and the way we understand the world. Let's begin. There is a strange force shaping our judgments, a force so quiet, so subtle, that most people never notice it. And yet it influences the price we're willing to pay. The salaries we accept, the numbers we believe, the predictions we make, and even the truth we think we see. This force is called anchoring, and once you understand it, you begin to notice it everywhere. Let's begin with a simple experience, one you've probably had before. You walk into a store. You see a jacket with a price tag, $500 now, only $199. You don't know anything about the quality of the jacket. You don't know whether $199 is fair. You don't know what other jackets cost. And yet you feel something. $199 seems like a deal. Why? Because the first number you saw, $500, has already latched onto your mind. It has become an anchor, a reference point that quietly shapes everything that comes after it. Anchoring bias is the mind's tendency to cling to the first number it encounters. And once that number sticks, it pulls all our judgments toward it. But to really understand anchoring, we need to go deeper than discounts, price tags, and sales tricks. We need to understand why the brain behaves this way, why the first number we see suddenly becomes the benchmark even when it's meaningless. The truth is, simple human beings hate uncertainty. When we face a question, we don't know the answer to how much something is worth, how old someone is, what percentage is correct. Our mind panics just a little. It looks for something to grab onto, something stable, something that feels like a starting point. Anchoring gives the brain that starting point, not because the first number is accurate, but because the first number exists. In the face of uncertainty, the brain grabs whatever it can find. Imagine being asked a question like this. What percentage of countries in Africa are members of the United Nations? If you don't know the answer, you will look for clues. But if the only thing you've seen beforehand is a random number, say 10 or 65, that number will influence your answer, even if it came from spinning a wheel. This experiment has been repeated many times. The results are always the same. The number people see first predicts the number they guess later, even if the first number is nonsense. Anchoring is powerful. But why? Because the brain is always trying to reduce complexity into something manageable. When you hear a number, especially in a situation where you feel uncertain, the brain treats it as better than nothing. So it uses it. It uses the anchor as a reference. Then it adjusts slightly, but never enough. Anchoring is the mind's way of saying, I don't know the answer, but at least I know something, even when that something should never have mattered. Let's explore some everyday examples to see how anchoring shapes our decisions. In shopping, anchoring is everywhere. The original price of a product is often inflated on purpose. It's not there to inform you, it's there to anchor you. When you see $1,000 now, $399, your brain compares $399 to $1,000, instead of asking, is this worth $399? Anchoring also shapes how we negotiate salaries. If the employer offers $45,000 first, the entire negotiation revolves around that number. If you offer $60,000 first, the conversation shifts. Whoever sets the anchor gains the advantage. Anchoring appears in real estate too. A house listed for $800,000 feels different from the same house listed at $950,000, even if the true market value is identical. Buyers make their judgments based not on the house, but on the anchor. Anchoring even influences how we interpret information. If a news article claims that a certain problem costs billions of dollars, we see the issue as large. If it claims millions, we see it as smaller. The number serves as the anchor, and our thinking adjusts from there. Anchoring shows up in predictions too. When people guess the outcome of elections, sports, or markets, the first prediction they hear shapes their own. Even experts fall for this. Economists, investors, analysts, all influenced by the first number they encounter. Anchoring is not confined to markets or predictions. It influences memory probability and even our sense of fairness. But here's the twist: the deeper insight at the heart of anchoring. Anchoring isn't a flaw. It is a survival mechanism. In the ancient world, there was no time for careful analysis. Early humans faced rapid decisions. Should I eat this berry? Should I run from that sound? Should I trust this person? There was no database, no internet, no statistics. The first piece of information was often the only piece of information. So the brain evolved to use it, to cling to it, to treat the first detail as the most important one. Because often it was. But the modern world is different. Today, we are surrounded by numbers, price tags, discounts, headlines, statistics, predictions, marketing messages. And these numbers are not always neutral. Sometimes they are engineered to influence us. Anchoring is now a point of vulnerability, a door through which persuasion slips in. Let's take a moment to explore why anchoring is dangerous. Anchoring makes people overpay. It makes people accept lower salaries. It makes negotiators settle for worse deals. It makes misleading statistics seem reasonable. It makes random numbers feel meaningful. It makes false information harder to correct later. Anchoring biases our expectations before we have a chance to think clearly. So how do we defend ourselves? How do we break the anchor's grip? Here is a simple, clear-thinking framework. Step 1. Pause your first reaction. The moment you see a number, remind yourself, this is just the first number, not the true number. That pause disrupts the anchor. Step 2. Ask why the number is there. Was it chosen randomly? Was it chosen strategically? Was it chosen to influence you? If so, the anchor becomes visible and weaker. Step 3. Reset your reference point. Find real data. Check other prices. Look at comparable salaries. Research actual values. Your independent benchmark fights the anchor. Step 4. Estimate twice. Make one estimate without looking at the anchor. Then make another after seeing it. Compare them. The difference reveals the anchor's influence. Step 5. Consider the opposite. If the anchor were half as large, would you feel differently? If it were twice as large, would your view change? This exposes how artificial your judgment can be. Anchoring loses its power when you make the invisible visible. Let's close this with a final example. Imagine two people visiting the same apartment. One person hears the owner say, "This place is worth around $500,000. The second person hears the seller is asking for $750,000. Everything else is identical: the walls, the floors, the view, the layout. And yet one person thinks the apartment is a bit expensive, while the other thinks it's a bargain. Same apartment, different anchors, different reality. Anchoring shows us something profound about the human mind. We don't judge things based on their true value. We judge them based on the first number we encounter. Anchoring is not about math. It is about psychology. It is about how the mind handles uncertainty. It is about how we build meaning from random information. It is about how our ancient instincts shape our modern lives. Anchoring bias quietly reveals something essential. The brain does not look for truth. The brain looks for stability. But once you learn to recognize anchoring, you gain something rare: the ability to think independently, to resist subtle manipulation, and to evaluate things with clarity rather than habit. Anchors will always exist, but they don't have to control you. Awareness breaks the anchor, and when you see anchoring in action, you begin to see your own mind more clearly, not as a perfect machine, but as a beautifully imperfect system doing its best in a world filled with numbers, uncertainty, and persuasion. Script ends. Anchoring bias is a reminder that our minds are not neutral calculators. They're storytellers searching for stability. And when faced with uncertainty, the first number we encounter becomes the story's opening line, a line that colors every chapter afterward. But once you notice this pattern, everything changes. You begin to question the numbers that guide you. You pause before accepting the first suggestion. You build your own reference points instead of borrowing someone else's. Awareness doesn't erase anchoring, but it weakens its grip. It gives you space to think independently, to negotiate more confidently, to judge more clearly, and to step outside the invisible pull of the first number. If this episode helped you understand your mind a little better, consider joining me for the next one. We explore the hidden forces behind how we think, decide, and interpret the world. Until then, remember, the first number is not the truth. It's just the first number. You get to choose what comes next.